Let's go back to Simon now. More on those results from Northern Rock. As bad as they thought? I mean, they sound pretty bad.
They are pretty bad. I mean, typical, isn't it? The banks that we don't own made profits of about £3 billion each yesterday. The bottom line is that the bank that we do own, every last one of us, in the last hour reported results for the first half of 2009, and they lost £724 million in the first 6 months of this year, and it comes after a tough 2 years for the bank. It was rescued, of course, by the taxpayer in September 2007 after large numbers of its savers withdrew their money after the bank was hit by bad debts. The Rock was taken into full public ownership in February last year. Back in March, it announced a loss of £1.4 billion for the whole of 2008. The bank's been bailed out to the tune of £27 billion by the taxpayer to keep it afloat. Now, though by March of this year, it had already paid back about 2/3 of that money. This morning, it said it had managed to pay back about a further couple of billion, because there's been a bit of a change of heart. Now, unlike HSBC and Barclays, Northern Rock doesn't have an investment banking division. To find out exactly what difference that makes, I'm joined by Stephen Barber from Selfray. Stephen, typical, isn't it? The bank we don't own is losing money hand over fist. How come?
Yes, it's a shame. I mean, we've just got the results through from Northern Rock, and as you said, it doesn't make necessarily pretty reading, but it's not a fair comparison with a bank of this kind with the sort of numbers we saw coming out of Barclays yesterday. I think what you're comparing is a bank that remained in the private sector to one that was nationalised, and a bank that in Northern Rock is a pretty traditional mortgage lending retail bank, with one that's in Barclays an international, corporate financing bank with interest right across Asia, where we're seeing, economic growth.
Well, where does this put us now? We put in a lot of money into this bank. Well, how does our investment look at this stage?
Actually, a couple of things that have come out of these results that are quite interesting. One is the extent to which it's paid off the debt that taxpayers have helped to fund the bank, and the other one is the restructuring. Actually, what's interesting is it's actually made pretty good progress in terms of paying off some of that £27 billion worth of debt. But actually, the numbers aren't much different from the last time we saw this 3 months ago.
But that's because the government's had a change of heart, isn't it? Because it's saying, we've got Northern Rock, it's 100% owned by us, let's use it to stimulate the mortgage market. So we've got two things going on here. What's good for taxpayers might not be good for the mortgage market.
That's right. I mean, there's been an element of kind of schizophrenic pressures coming from government on Northern Rock, and bear in mind, much of the strategy of Northern Rock seems to be coming from number 10, number 11. And you're quite right, they were concentrating pretty much on paying off that debt. The consequence of that is that they're perhaps not lending as much. They've seen that shifted, and of course these are these conflicting pressures. One of the things, of course, with a nationalised bank is it perhaps doesn't need that kind of capital adequacy that a bank in the private sector does. It can't fail again.
Is it too early to say, what was the government's intervention in this and the taxpayers' money, was this a success or a failure?
In a sense, it didn't have much choice. I mean, it couldn't let this bank go bust. What it seems like is that there's pretty clear strategy, and it comes out in this release, that the government and the strategy of this bank is to move it back into the private sector as soon as possible. And you can see this, I suppose, with impending election that the government wants to see this.
They want to be seen as decisive
and
done something.
They want to see it decisive, and they want to see it as being a successful economic policy.
All right, Stephen, we'll keep our eyes glued to their results as we go forward. Back to you two.
Thank you very much indeed.